we're a couple days out of halftime of the year. I'm with Dr. Josiah, founder of Lucro. I want to get your insights on how you view the halftime of the year, if you view a halftime of the year like everyone else does. What does it mean to you from a bookkeeping perspective, from Lucro, a goal perspective? Give me your whole take on halftime adjustments.
Halftime adjustments. I love that. I mean, I'm playing football in college. That was a big part of every game. Is what did we learn? What can we do better on? I'm big on more on quarters than I would say on half. So we run really on a
Perfect.
quarterly basis, and so we do really an evaluation of our KPIs every single week, every month. We roll up to a monthly review, but then every quarter we do a whole quarterly review, or comparing it to the previous quarter as well as to the same exact quarter the previous year. And oftentimes that's a better comparison, especially for chiropractic clinics, because there can definitely be some seasonalities with the holidays or with summer or with school that can really have some effect on your clinic. And so if you compare to that previous quarter, it might not be a really good comparison. A lot of times comparing to the previous year's same quarter is often better. But we do a whole strength, weaknesses, opportunities, challenges, analysis of every part of our clinic: front desk, back office, clinical department, sales department, retention department, marketing department. Every single one of those gets a really deep dive into the performance, the KPIs, the team members. We do performance reviews. And so, it's huge, it's massive. I'm a really big proponent of, going slow to go fast.
When when should a practice freak out versus not freak out? Because I know you deal with I know who you deal with, and I know who, I want to get an insight into, like, dude, actually you're doing really good. Like, how do you, like, especially with
Mm.
Lucro, how do you guys determine, hey, don't freak out, you're doing good, everything can be improved, like,
Yeah.
obviously, versus, oh shit, dude, you're fucked up. Like,
I mean, I
how
would
do
say
you?
the first key to that, I would say the first key to that is make sure you're comparing to yourself first and foremost. It's
Okay.
easy to look at my office or look at someone else's office and look at someone else's stats and say, why aren't we where they are? They've been out of school less time than me. They've implemented this faster
You
than
know
me.
you fucked up
Right.
some lives out there with being a thief of comparison for a few people out there.
Yeah.
Not that you meant to do it, bro, but
Yeah, no, I mean, I've done it, but I've done it to myself, and that's a big thing, yeah, for sure. Comparison is definitely a thief of joy.
yeah.
100% agree with you on that. So I would really be very self-reflective on your own individual self-reflection analysis. What's the greatest version of you? Where are you at currently? Where do you want to go? Because that was a big thing, before I ever opened, I set these KPIs and these numbers of what I had heard through the grapevine that this is the ideal show up rate, this is the ideal sign up rate, this is the ideal number of referrals that you should generate on a monthly basis. And when we weren't hitting some of those stats on the front end, I'm just like, what's wrong with us? And my team members were getting very frustrated that they were quarter over quarter not hitting these lofty goals that I set from the very beginning. And so we really had to change our mindset and say, hey, okay, this is what we did last quarter, this is what we did the quarter last year. How much can we improve it from there? Set a much more achievable, realistic, and really get the team members bought in. I think that's a big mistake I made early on, is not getting their agreement and buy-in of the goals that I was setting. I was setting goals that they didn't think were achievable, and so involving your team in setting realistic goals and getting them to agree that this
How
is
do you how do
a
you
smart goal.
how do you do it in agreement where you're not calling bullshit on each other? Like, dude, you're thinking too low or you're thinking too big. Like, where? How do you find the alignment agreement?
Yeah, I mean, I found most people, when given the opportunity to push themselves, they actually push themselves sometimes even farther than you realize.
Yeah.
And so one of the great examples is, like, we used to fill out all the performance reviews for people. And what we switched is now they fill it out first. And we've been, pleasantly surprised that oftentimes they're grading themselves harder than we would. They're writing down things above and beyond expectations. They have higher expectations sometimes for themselves, or oftentimes, than we do for them, based on their past performance. And so just allowing them, giving them that opportunity to have self-awareness, evaluate, set goals, And then, like you said, if they are way off, you can bring a little stability, to that point, but also just asking them and getting them to helping you understand, well, hey, here's where we're at. You only think we can improve by this small amount. Like, tell me why that is, and help them start having that owner's mindset, and give them a little bit of insight or coaching, or thought process, and why you think it could be a bigger number. And, ideally then they're going to start thinking on their own, because I think that's one of the number one gifts you can give someone, is helping them think how to, helping them understand better how to think. I mean, I know you got a couple kids, I got 3 kids, and that's one of the number one things I think I can pass on to my kids, is helping them have a framework of how to think. How do they use their experiences, their knowledge, and then their resources, and other people's knowledge, resources, and experience to help them make the best decisions.
You guys are helping so many clinics out there, and you have access to so much data. At the halftime part, I'm going to ask you, 6 months into 2025, based on what you see in clinics across the data, what excites you and inspires you this year so far, and what scares you and gives you trepidation, possibly?
Man, I would say excitement is, we have over $500 million worth of annual clinic revenue, in the Lucro software. So we have the largest amount of clinic revenue expense data in the world, I believe, already, after only being a year, in operation. Our goal is to get to $1 billion as fast as possible, but no one has the data that we have. Even the biggest franchise groups, they don't even have the data. For expense data. They might have some revenue or some EHR data, but they don't have any of that. That's pretty cool. I was just
so where the fuck is everyone wasting their money, bro?
Yeah, I mean, I just talked to a franchise owner last week. They have 208 franchises. I won't say who they are, but they don't even have the data that we have. And they're looking for us to help them get better data.
Oh, dude.
As far as the second part of your question, I would say what really is still unbelievable to me is the amount of chiropractors, doctors that still want to do their own bookkeeping, still want to do their own, fundamental, basic, low-level tasks, that they're so stuck in, doing 1,000 things that they want to get to a CEO, but their actions don't mirror, what they say.
Yeah.
And I think that's a huge part of it, is just delegating and elevating, handing off, really changing their mindset, on investing in growth versus them thinking everything as an expense.
Do you think it's a fear, or do you think it's a cheapness, or both? Did I lose you?
No, you didn't lose me. You lost me in thought.
Okay.
That's a good question. I think it has to be fear. I mean, to me, cheapness is a result of fear. If you really knew the value of what you're going to get, and the impact that it would have, then price is never an issue if you really understand the true value of that. So, yeah, it's just the most fundamental level that doctors are missing, is they don't understand their financial data, and then they're very, very timid and fearful about making decisions, whether it be investing in marketing, investing in team members, whatever investment it may be. They don't have data to make decisions, so everything is a guess, a hope, a gut feeling, versus a concrete confidence, clarity, and certainty.
I gotta just share with people right now, like behind the scenes, talked to Dr. Josiah a week or two ago before I went off to London, gave him a scoop of what I want to do with my growth coordinators, which is giving them access to Lucro, because I think if you're a coach out there and you're not advising your clients to be on Lucro, you're doing a disservice to your coaching or consulting, in my opinion. I really, really, truly think that. Because the clients that I have that use Lucro have helped me become a better consultant, coach, growth coordinator, hands down. It's just a no-brainer. On that note, you guys also help out, and so far, everything's been chef's kiss with what you help and support, advise. It's truly in alignment with what so if you're a dumb coach, you might not want to work with Lucro. But if you're a smart coach, everything should be aligned. I love a comment you put the other day. I forget what group it was in, but it was about ROI and advertising. Give me that formula you were using And why that is the formula that you use. It was a cool, simple formula.
Yeah. I got it. Let me just share my screen. I'm
Yeah,
literally,
he's doing it right now while we're talking. He's a computer.
yeah. So this is the most basic formula that you got to know right here is just this basic math here of 100 divided by your profit margin. So if your profit margin is 33%, 100 divided by 33 is 3. If your profit margin is 40%, the number is 2.5. If it's 50, it's 2. If it's 20, it's 5. Whatever that number is, most doctors we find are somewhere, around 30 to 40% profit margin. And so that means they only need, 2 to 3x return on ad spend to break even. And so if you put $1 into a machine and it gives you $2 or $3 out, whatever your number is, that's your break even point. Everything above that is profitability. And the great thing is, it doesn't cost any more to deliver a $100 adjustment than it does to deliver a $50 adjustment. And so you can have massive increases in profitability because your expenses don't go up, when your revenue goes up for most all
Yeah,
things. And so this is the very easiest framework for doctors to cut through that, doubt, uncertainty, from a marketing perspective is this basic formula. If you know you're, 100 divided by your profit margin, whatever that number is to you, most doctors are going to be somewhere, like I said, around 2 to 3. As long as you're making more on that than you're spending, then you're profitable. And so that gives you the confidence to continue spending and investing and filling your schedule, because that's what is really the next step, to scale is understanding what your capacity is. And that's the other thing that doctors don't know is they have no idea what their capacity of their schedule is. I've asked hundreds or if not over 1,000 doctors now, right off the cuff, like how many day ones, how many new patients could you see a week?
yeah,
Nobody knows the answer to that question off the top of their head. Like that should be like, hey, how much do you weigh? Like,
yeah.
maybe people don't even know that number very well, but but there should be basic numbers. What's your birthday? Well, how many new patients can you see a week? You should answer that question just as fast.
Oh, dude, my father would fall in love with you in a heartbeat more and more, dude. I want to thank you for that because that was something that drove him crazy when he was in the '80s and shit. Well, dude, I want to go a little rapid fire with you. Uh, you know, a couple questions that have come up for me the last couple of weeks through the spiz of pimping and promoting you guys out, and you know how much I love you guys. First question from someone is Lucro more of a QuickBook replacement or supplement? How would you answer that?
I would say we're a bookkeeper replacement. QuickBooks is more of the tool, that bookkeepers utilize to help categorize expenses, and we operate, and our software connects to QuickBooks to pull out all your data. So I would say we replace the bookkeeper itself, whether that be, ideally someone that you're already hiring, or unfortunately if it's you or a family member or team member, getting that replaced as fast as possible. We're going to categorize all your expenses for you in QuickBooks, and then that's going to connect to our software, and then that's going to give you CFO level guidance based on your financial data of how you should reinvest those dollars, what you're doing properly from a financial standpoint, and therefore what actions you should take as a result of your data.
Another question: does Lucro help with collections, payroll, or just P&Ls? What that was a question that came up.
Yep, another great question. We specialize specifically in bookkeeping, so we don't do accounts receivable, we don't do payroll, we don't do taxes. What I really found is you need a financial expert, to help you know how to scale and grow your business, and that's what we want to provide. Payroll, accounts receivable, that's back office. Taxes, you want to have a tax specialist, in those areas.
What is one of the features or benefits of Lucro that you think no one talks about or might not know as much about?
I would say the resources inside of our software are just crazy. Not only are we doing your bookkeeping, not only are we giving you financial insights of how to scale your clinic, not only are you getting access to what the top performers in the entire country are doing, we are also creating extremely valuable content inside the software on all these different topics,
Yeah.
videos, calculators, resources, tools to actually help you take and implement the action steps that we're recommending. So it's not just like, hey, your overhead's too high, what do you do with it? Hey, you're getting a great return on your marketing. What should you do? We actually have resources and connections to help put, people actually take the action steps we're recommending.
Who's one of your biggest or favorite recent new clients that has some big wins you want to share from using you guys?
Yeah, I would say we have a guy named Anthony. He 3x'd his profit in the first 90 days.
Damn,
So
dude.
yeah, right on the front end. Right on the front end was a little fat trimming, with some overheads that we were able to eliminate. But that's the big thing most people, focus too much on is they're trying to cut. You can cut a little bit, but you really need to focus on the ceiling of growth is always going to be much higher than what you can eliminate. And so we cut some on the front end, which was great. But then we really helped him understand what I was just talking about, how he can maximize what he's already paying for. Because whether you have a 100% full schedule or a 50% full schedule, your rent doesn't change, your payroll doesn't change, your utility bill, your internet bill, most all your expenses do not change. So we really need to understand what your capacity is, what percentage of it is being utilized. And in this case scenario, he was only utilizing about 18% of his capacity, and so now he's closer to around 60% of his capacity. So that he's being utilized. He still has a huge amount of potential left available, so that could eventually 5x his profitability.
Dude, this might be a stupid question. It might not be. I don't know. But I have to imagine, and coming from a little bit of the world I came with years ago of loss prevention, do you guys see or capture any fraud, or do you see any like patterns of stuff ever? Like where you're like, that just looks weird.
Definitely. Occasionally, there's going to be some charges where it's like, hey, normally you spend $500 a month on this vendor. I actually just caught one of these last month. There was a doctor doing working with this marketing vendor. Usual charge month over month was $500, and then one month it was $6,000.
Yeah.
So in our report, it was like, hey, normally
Hey,
this
dude, thanks for catching me on
$500
that. No, thanks for catching me. No,
this
just joking.
yeah, but this month this was $6,000, so it really impacted your profitability. What was the reason you spent this much more? And the person's like, what? I didn't spend that much. And they looked into it, and they had a bunch of fraudulent charges. They had to cancel their card and reach
Oh
out to the
yeah, dude. Ouch. I mean, just the safety net feature alone of that, I got to tell you, because I think that we're heading into a Q4 that leads towards a little bit higher instances of people holiday season. People don't talk about this, think about this, but this is when your team or people do shady shit. It's good to have a safety net with a team like Lucro. So not only are they making you money, not only are they saving you money, they're not only are they making your life easier, but they're protecting you. So hey, dude, you're going to be speaking at, you got a bunch of places you're going to be at. ChiroFest coming up. Where else?
ChiroFest. I'm at Health Experts Alliance in August. We'll be at FCA in
Yes.
Florida coming up. I'm going to be out in LA in January. I think I got a speaking pretty much once a month. I'm speaking somewhere.
So, how are you? I'm going to ask you some personal stuff before we close out. What are you doing to satiate yourself right now? What are you reading? What are you listening to? What are you watching? How are you fulfilling yourself? What are you staying ahead of the game on?
Yeah, it's a great question. Really, for me, I've always been a big proponent in the last 5 years of intaking less information and doing more action. That's something I think we have a chronic issue with, especially in our profession. We have a lot of smart people that love to learn, and learning is great, but if you don't do anything with it, then it's just learning to learn, and it's more just entertainment. And so I've really been a big proponent of always, learn less, take more action. Read one book, take 100 action steps versus reading 100 books and taking one action step. And so one thing that I have been doing is I've been going back. I'm a person who emails. I get more emails from anybody than I email myself the most.
Yeah.
And so one thing, I've sent myself a lot of emails over the years of ideas, thoughts. Hey, I should do this. Hey, I should do that.
Yeah.
And so now I'm actually have this process with my assistant. We're actually going through all my emails from previous years that I sent myself, ideas that I've had, and trying to categorize them and organize them into, hey, this was a fabulous idea. We should definitely do this in the next month. Hey, great idea, but we'll put that in the long-term bucket. Hey, this is a great idea maybe in the next 90 days. So just getting more organized on that standpoint. I'm personally utilizing Trello
Yeah.
for that organization, and that's just been really beneficial. If someone's a visionary of a company, they always got ideas. They always want to do things, but unfortunately, you can get the shiny object syndrome. There's 1,000 things you could do, but 900 of them might move the needle 1%. One of them might move the needle 200%. And so, just having a better framework of organizing those different ideas, thoughts, initiatives into a more streamlined approach has really been beneficial for me.
On that note, where is the next 3 to 5 years for Lucro? If you don't mind, maybe even peeking behind the curtain, like there's always you're a visionary and an implementer and an integrator. You're like a master of all. What do you want to see put into place for Lucro to help more people?
Yeah, my big vision for Lucro is advancement of the profession. We have the greatest healthcare product in the world, and there's nobody that compares. Jesus and chiropractors, the top miracle workers in the history of the world. I stand behind that. But we don't know how to run businesses. And so if we have the greatest product, then everyone should know about it. Everyone should utilize it. There shouldn't be some tipping point that we've been trying to reach for 125 years. And so if we can help doctors have more clarity, confidence, and certainty to make better decisions, then I really feel like that is the fundamental baseline to elevate the profession. And we have to start with the fundamentals, right? And so many doctors are looking for, a slightly better technique or a slightly better improvement in
Yeah.
equipment or some, technology. But if you don't have the confidence to just do more of what already we know works, you can have all these other fancy things, but none of them are really going to matter. So that's really the premise behind Lucro, is to give you very simple, clear, concise directive based on your own personal financials to make better decisions.
Dude, you guys, hands down, one of the biggest game changing products, platforms, services out there in chiropractic land. It is the first product and service that I've had nobody come back to me and go, WTF on anything. Dude, that's a testament to what you guys have built. The love and adoration for Lucro is amazing. Proof is in the pudding. Uh, get hooked up with Lucro. Go to morelucro.com and get signed up. Hey, dude, thanks for jamming today.
Yeah, thanks for having me.